Hey, I'm Tom Bradford, and welcome to Lessons in Leadership. This is a series of short videos where I'm going to talk about some of the mistakes that I've made and that I've seen others make when it comes to leading engineers, product people, and leadership in general, and management. Today, I want to talk about the short stint. And what does that mean? The problem of the short stint is this tendency for hiring managers and recruiters to look at a CV or a resume and see a short stint, a short period in the job history of somebody, and use that automatically as an exclusionary criterion for the CV. Why is this bad? Okay, well, there's something called the fundamental attribution error. It's a bias that essentially says that we have a tendency as people to judge somebody's intrinsic behavior based on what we externally observe rather than trying to dig and understand the situational aspects of why they may have behaved a certain way. Now, this is important when you're looking at a CV because you can't judge a book by its cover at the end of the day. I mean, that's kind of what it boils down to. We have a tendency to exclude people based on this. The knee-jerk reaction is to say, well, if they can't stay at that company for very long, what makes me think that they would stay at this company for very long? And if you unpack this, you can start to understand why it's a bad way to judge a CV. So, let's back up a little bit and talk about statistics. So I think that we can agree that the vast majority of companies, maybe like 8 out of 10, are not particularly good. Most of them are startups. Most of them are discovering how to do the most basic things from scratch. And that means, both delivering product, managing teams, creating a culture of inclusion and purpose. They're just not really good at it. And there's also really large companies who are absolutely terrible at it. But if you take that 8 out of 9, a good percentage of those may also be toxic shit shows, which means that if you take these statistics and you map them to the candidates, you're going to have to think about the fact that 8 out of 10 jobs, upwards of 8 out of 10 jobs on somebody's CV may have been at one of these shit shows or bad companies, and that may well have been the reason why they didn't last very long at those companies. And this is really important because you have to understand the workforce situation to really judge a CV properly. There are not that many companies. There's a high competition between candidates for jobs at those companies. Most candidates are going to have to balance out, well, I need to pay my rent or take care of my family, but I would also really, really like to work at a great place where I feel included and that I have sort of a purposeful contribution to what the company is doing. I can't wait to see that company because there's so few and far between. I have to actually worry about my priorities, and that is taking care of my immediate loved ones and myself, and feeding myself. Dinner on the table is a good thing. And so people will err in that direction. They just will because they have to. They have no choice. Those are the conditions of the workforce. And if you're a hiring manager and you don't understand that, then you're doing yourself and these people and your company a disservice. And you might be thinking, well, what if they're just job hoppers who want to go from job to job and hopefully get more of a salary between every single job? Okay, well, that may happen on occasion. It does happen. But it is also an indictment of the company and their ability to retain people and properly pay people a wage where they're not having to compete with other companies. But mostly what it means is that the person just didn't want to fight that fight. Because I can guarantee you that, well, for example, I've never, ever spoken to a software engineer who said, Tom, you know what I really love? I love getting a job, I love having to go through the learning curve of the domain that I'm working in. I love having to deal with the storming of being part of a new team for months. I love the idea of having to adapt to the ways of working of that team and the company. I love the anxiety of being on a probationary period. I love for it to take months before I feel like I'm truly productive and actually creating value for customers. And then I'm just going to quit and do it all over again. I've never, ever spoken to anyone who said that they liked doing that. Getting used to a job, being good at a job, it's hard. It's very difficult. The amount of friction you face is excruciating in the first months. I can't imagine the sadist who would want to do that over and over and over again. And if they do, it says way more about the situation that they left than who they are as a person in almost all cases. So, why do I say that? Well, if a company sucks, and somebody stays there a really, really long time, what does that say about them? That they just wanted a job and they had no aspirations for growth? If a company sucks and somebody leaves very quickly, what does that say about them? Often, it says that they're unwilling to put up with bullshit just to make a paycheck, and that they're searching for something better. Now, that better might be you, but if you're the hiring manager who's judging them based on how long they stayed at other companies, you are basically perpetuating the problem. You may well be part of sort of a system of just shitty managers who don't know what they're doing. And that's unfortunate, because you can do better. You could look into the situation, right? You could look for those weak signals in the CV that tell you more about the person than the strong signals of the dates that they spent at companies. Look deep. They may have spent about 4 years at a company, and when they write about it, it's glowing what they say about what they did at the company and who they worked with and what they were able to accomplish and anything that they might have been able to tell you about the culture. And if it's a short stint and they don't say very much, it could be that company actually sucked. But you should err on the side of, well, they have proven that they could stay at a company for a long time as long as they're properly engaged. And if you don't think that they would be properly engaged at your company, what does that say about your company? What does it say about the environment and culture that you've created? It means that you're not confident in the culture that you have for your employees. And that means you've got to work. It means you've got to improve it, right? If you think, oh, I can't retain them, it's because you can't retain them. Figure out how to retain them. It's as simple as that. We can be better. So do it. All right. That's the end of lesson 1.